folks, welcome to another episode of Rimshots with Sean, brought to you by Barstools and Bandtalk. It's really funny that, you get in this business and you meet people that you've never met before, which sounds perfectly normal. But I get an email from this next gentleman's representation about a single that they had coming out. We have Mr. Scott Shapiro from the, tell us where you're at and what your band is.
Yeah, I'm with Space Vacation. We're from San Francisco, California. And we are a heavy metal band for fans of heavy metal.
And so what's interesting, I think San Francisco is one of those kind of locales where, you think Carlos Santana, but then you think Journey, but then you think Metallica and that whole, there's such a diverse musical culture there. Does that affect you or influence your music in any way?
Not really. I'm not a native to the Bay Area. I grew up in Boston. So, for me, we started this band because I wanted to hear music that wasn't really being played. And, we started everything up in 2007 where, you were either Cookie Monster vocals or trying to sound like High on Fire, right. Which, another Bay Area band. And so we just want to do something different. So we like traditional, more classic heavy metal, early Judas Priest, super early Def Leppard, were big influences on us, Queen, Iron Maiden, all the standards.
Well, it's interesting. And Rain in Hell is the single, Space Vacation is the band. Scott Shapiro is the lead singer and guitar player in the band. And you just said you're a Boston native. Were you involved in the music business in Boston before you went out to San Francisco?
No, not really. I moved out here, moved to California when I was 18. I played in bands, but nothing of any impact.
So, you guys, how long has your band been together in terms of, all the members? Are you the original lineup since you started? Give us a little bit of background on Space Vacation.
Yeah, sure. The band started back in 2007. I got a call from my brother, Jay, when I was in law school. And he's like, hey, man, you got to move out here after law school. We'll start a band. Now, my brother, Jay, doesn't play any instrument when he's calling me. I was like, all right, sure. What are you going to play? And he's like, I'm going to play bass. I was like, have you ever played a bass? He's like, no, but I just bought one. And then every couple of weeks, he keeps sending me pictures of new gear that he's buying. It's like, this band's going to sound sick. The band's going to sound sick. And then he told me he met up with a drummer, a guy named Andy Hedrick, who had just quit playing in a band called Walkin', which was a big San Francisco heavy metal band. And he's like, we want to get together and start playing. You got to move out here. So I'm like, all right, fine. Finished school, moved out, and we started playing together. And that lineup stayed together for about 5 years. Keo Morgan, who's the current guitar player, joined for our second record, Heart Attack. Him and I have been playing together ever since. And then we've had a few different incarnations over the years. And we've been with the current lineup now for, about 4 years, just about 4 years. And that's Kai Sun on bass, Eli Lucas on drums, and then Keo Morgan on lead guitar.
So out in these parts, and we're in Halifax, Nova Scotia, which is obviously just north of Boston. And, folks up here go down to Boston all the time. But, certainly when I was growing up, that San Francisco Bay Area music scene, and in particular the metal scene, was legendary. Yeah. Does it still exist in the same way, or has it changed, or what's the makeup like?
Yeah, it's a lot of the same guys, right? Gary Holt and Exodus are up here. All the Death Angel guys are up here still playing out. And then you've got some upstart bands like Hellfire, who's a phenomenal heavy metal band that kind of strides that line between traditional metal and thrash and speed metal. They're good friends of ours as well. But as far as the diversity of scene up here, I don't know, there's a lot of different kinds of music, that's for sure. Just not a ton of heavy metal, at least not traditional metal. So
I always remember hearing about the scene in San Francisco, being very, a lot of camaraderie, a lot of, the whole tape sharing where the scene was built by cassette tapes being shared. Is it still the same? Obviously there'd be a bit of a competition, and a healthy competition is good, but is it still that kind of, kind of brotherly, hey man, let's, roll up our sleeves and build the scene like it was before?
Yeah. That's how I've always felt here. From our very first shows, getting shown the ropes by other bands that have been doing it for a while, like our buddies in Hightower, who are like a skate rock metal band. all the way through until now. You really have to work together. Like I know a lot of the older bands, maybe not necessarily from around here, but I've certainly heard stories about, hey, let's sabotage the opening band so that we sound better. And like, to me, that's such like, what the hell would you do that? You're just going to make a show crappy. You're that, not confident in your sound. So yeah, I mean, that's something I've always tried to strive for, like making the scene and making it great for everyone. Oh, you need someone, your strings broke, here, use my guitar, let's make this awesome. And, certainly that's the path that I've been down. And I pretty much every band we've played with out here has had that same ethos.
Yeah, I mean, more musicians, and I mean, I'm not talking to you as a guy just interviewing, because I played for years and I still do. And I always find, that music karma thing is really funny, right? Like, if you help somebody, it may not come back to you right away, but something good does happen. Another door opens, and more people need to understand that help a brother, help a sister out, and everybody wins, and everything just gets better.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not like we're all making tons. It's 1982 anymore. Like, no one's getting huge record advances. Like, you have to work together to make the scene great, or otherwise, I mean, what are you doing it for? Who's going to come out to your shows, right? Go out and support your buds and other bands, especially ones with new bands, because you don't know what they've got going on yet. Go check it out. Go see their shows.
So I want to get into Space Vacation here, but before, you mentioned, so you were going to law school, and yeah, I guess you kind of saw that through. Did you ever get into that business, or did you just?
Oh yeah. That's my day job.
Oh, nice.
I did music and entertainment law for a number of years before we started a family, and then now I work, do some in-house counsel work, and have a nice steady gig, which allows me to kind of get out and tour and do the things that I like to do with this band.
Well, and it's great, and I'm halfway joking, but I think people think that in our industry we're just a bunch of dummies that can only play instruments, and you've proved them wrong, Scott, just by the fact that you're a lawyer now. That's not an easy task.
Yeah, and it's good too, because it allows me to give back to the community in a way that other people typically can't. Like, I still field calls from musicians and producers and artists who have certain legal questions, and I try to help them out, on a pro bono basis, as long as it doesn't take a ton of time for me. But providing that kind of advice, I think, is really important, because it can save you a lot of time and aggravation. Like, someone has how do I get out of my contract? What is this? And I'll be happy to take a read through and say, hey, this is what it is. All these agreements suck. Basically, none of them are any good. If you want to get out, it's usually pretty limited. Or if they're looking, can you take a look at this agreement before I sign it? Yeah, sure. Happy to do that. It's the same type of thing. It's like,
Yeah.
So yeah, always happy to help and give back to the community and provide some advice for something that otherwise is super expensive for artists who are making next to nothing anyway.
Absolutely. So Space Vacation. So you said 2007, you guys get together.
Yeah.
Where has it, from the time you started to now? I mean, where has it the metamorphosis in terms of the band, ebbing and flowing and changing? How did that work?
Yeah. Well, we're 14 years older now, so there's that.
Right.
But we started this band. It was 100% energy, 100% of the time. And, the performances weren't always, perfect by any means, but we always had a ton of energy and gave everything we had. We've had a number of lineup changes since those early days. And right now, I'm privileged to be playing with guys who are absolutely phenomenal musicians. And that changes everything, right? So we can still give all that energy on stage and energy into the music, but I feel like the performances and the consistency of what we're able to do live, and for that matter on this new record, has really grown significantly from, the early days of the self-titled debut back in, 2009.
And I mean, there's nothing quite like walking on a stage knowing that you've got players that are going to be able to pull their weight.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a blast, looking over, I'll be on stage doing my thing and I'll look over and see Keo, and he's doing his thing, which is power move, six shred, he's always into it. And I look over to my other side and there's Kai, and he's laying down the groove. I mean, the guy is cool, he's the coolest guy I've ever seen. He's wearing his leather pants on a Tuesday because those are the pants that he wears. There's no, he's just that type of guy who can get away with doing that and living that life. And then I've got Eli behind me, who's just a monster. So it's a lot of fun to play with these guys, and a lot of fun to play with this particular lineup. And I'm really proud of the music that we were able to put together for this record, because we did it together as a group. You know, it wasn't one guy writing all the music and saying, you do what I say. You know, we're a democracy more or less when it comes to songwriting, when it comes to everything else, because let's face it, we're not getting paid a ton of money to do this stuff. So if you're not having fun and you're not getting what you want out of it, then you're not going to be around much longer.
Absolutely. And when I received the tune there last week, I listened to it and I was like, I now that you're telling me some of your influences, I can hear that in, I guess, bits and pieces. But, you know, not going to lie, when somebody says, you know, metal or whatever, I mean, there's different things go through my head. You never know what you're going to get. And I was blown away. I thought the song was really, really cool. You know, I want to hear the rest of it. How many tunes are on this album?
It is a long record. I think it's like 13, 14 songs.
Wow.
We originally, you know, we were supposed to record this thing. We got off tour in 2019. We got back from Europe. It was our first European tour. We're like, you know, that was awesome. Let's stop playing shows. Let's finish the writing for this next record. We'll go record it and we'll release it in the summertime in order to hit that next cycle and get on the festivals for 2021. Our recording dates were set for March 20th, 2020. So like 3 or 4 days after the pandemic hit and everything shut down. So that was scrapped. The whole recording process got drawn out over an extended period of time. It took us like 9 months to record the thing when it usually takes 7 days. And then from there, we're like, okay, cool. Well, you know, we'll have it out before the end of the year in 2021. That didn't happen. As soon as we turned it into the vinyl manufacturers, they're like, oh yeah, it'll be like, you know, 12 weeks. And it was 56 weeks. They just shipped 3 days ago.
Wow.
So, I mean, that's been a challenge. And so a ton of songs that we have, and we really wanted to kind of keep them together because we all wrote them in this period of time, and we wanted to keep that period of time together rather than like cherry picking songs for one EP or another and then dragging it out. We just want to get it all out there and, you know, start fresh with something new because, you know, times change. We change what we're thinking about, what's important to us, and we'll write about those things when the time comes.
It'd be interesting to get your take because, you know, obviously the whole pandemic thing is a running theme of everybody that I talk to. And, you know, we got off tour in 2019, we're ready to do our album. Then you hear that a lot. We all know what happened and we don't necessarily need to talk about it again, but I'd be interested on your take with how music got people through the pandemic, but how music kind of was treated again, like the ugly sort of stepchild, and nothing was really done for the industry to try to get it back. And it's almost, we all had to kick and fight on our own. And then at the end of the day, there's the politician with the photo op handing out checks like he or she has saved the day. What's your take on, you know, what happened to music during this last couple of years?
Yeah. I mean, I think music is always there in the times that are the hardest for people, right? It's the most relatable thing that we all share. It's human nature to listen to music, whether it's heavy metal or whatever the hell you're into, it doesn't really matter. And I feel like for me, creating and performing is part of that as, you know, as a creator and a performer, right? It's like part of who I am. I can't separate that out. So the hardest part was not having an opportunity to perform for people because that's, you know, what we do. But I think what got me through was we continued to rehearse and continue to write and continue to work on things through that entire time. While we recorded the record. So we had something to focus on, even though it was significantly more drawn out than we'd hoped. We were able to focus on what we were passionate about and keep it on the music. And it also allowed us to have a bit of camaraderie with each other since, you know, we were in the same pod, so to speak.
Sure. Bubble, they call it up here.
Yeah.
How big was technology a part in you guys getting your album done? And I'll say it in this way. I found that when things were shut down, people that embraced technology and did live streaming, you know, in their basement, or they were the ones that when things opened up for the first time, had some success, their name got out there. How did technology play a part in A, your recording, and B, just keeping your band going and keep a momentum going?
You know, it didn't. Like, to be frank, like, you know, we're like a more of an analog group, right? I think, you know, we were able to do some pre-production demos, but again, wasn't really tech based. We used like an old, you know, 8-track from the 90s to record that stuff.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
So, you know, honestly, it didn't. We tried to do a live stream event, But it was because we're like terrible with technology. We actually completely blew it. We reserved a hall for the day, a large stage, a place called the Phoenix Theater up in Petaluma, which is a pretty big place. Had all the recording gear set up so that we had audio recording and visual, the video recording, all set to go. We did a number of different takes, and all of the audio files got corrupted, so we couldn't use any of it. We're never able to do the live stream. And so, live stream, it's not necessarily live, as you know.
Yep.
So, and we're not really that type of band, right? Like playing in an empty hall, just like a practice, it wasn't really for us. And, ultimately I'm probably glad that it didn't work out the way that we wanted it to, because it really focused us on getting our live show up to snuff for when we were actually able to play out live, would be just hit the ground running with all our new tracks, which is what we did.
Right on. Well, you know what I'd like to do? So, we do 2 segments of this, and one airs on Friday, one airs on Sunday. So I'd like to say, hey, this is a wrap for segment 1. There's a whole bunch of things that I want to cover in segment 2. I'm definitely getting a vibe for what you guys are doing. Love the material. I heard the 1 tune. Can't wait to hear more. But yeah, so we're gonna wrap for now. And this is my new friend Scott from Space Vacation, and go and take a listen. See you next time.
Right on, Sean. Thanks.